Today, we're diving into the universe of martial arts icon nicknamed the Muscles from Brussels. This is Jean-Claude Van Damme. Jean-Claude Van Damme, celebrated as a true icon of action cinema and martial arts, stands among the rare personalities considered living legends in the entertainment industry. Yet behind this carefully crafted image of perfection lies a man whose life has been marked by numerous trials and tribulations. Between his tumultuous romantic relationships, scandals involving his family members, and his own personal demons, Jean-Claude's journey reveals a reality far more complex and often painful than his public persona might suggest. The Muscles from Brussels, as he came to be known, captivated audiences worldwide with his impressive physical abilities and charismatic screen presence. However, the polished veneer of stardom eventually cracked to expose a life characterized by tragedy and turbulence. From stormy love affairs to scandals involving his son, Jean-Claude's path has been fraught with obstacles that tested his resilience time and again. Moreover, the relentless grip of addiction cast a long shadow over his once glamorous existence. This exploration into the negative chapters of Jean-Claude's life reveals the human beneath the action hero facade. You may have heard about Jean-Claude Van Damme's romantic history, but the reality proves far more complicated than most people realize. In 1980, Van Damme embarked on his matrimonial journey by marrying Maria Rodriguez. However, their union was short-lived and ended in divorce, paving the way for his next romantic chapter. This pattern of brief, intense relationships would become a recurring theme throughout his personal life, perhaps reflecting the same intensity that characterized his on-screen performances. He subsequently married Cynthia Durdian, but much like the characters in his films who faced formidable opponents, their relationship also succumbed to tensions, culminating in another divorce. Undeterred by these setbacks, Van Damme once again sought love with Cynthia Durdian, displaying a resilience reminiscent of his screen persona. However, their reunion was not destined to last, and eventually, the couple separated once more, adding another chapter to his complicated romantic history. Van Damme's romantic odyssey took a new turn when he found love with professional bodybuilder Gladys Portugues. Their relationship blossomed, culminating in marriage, and they welcomed 2 children into their lives. Despite their initial happiness, their union encountered its share of challenges, ending in separation in 1992. The dissolution of this relationship particularly affected Van Damme, as it involved not just the couple but their young children as well, adding another dimension of emotional complexity to the situation. After his breakup with Portugues, Van Damme embarked on a whirlwind romance with Darcy Lapierre, whom he married shortly after they met. However, their marriage encountered turbulence, exacerbated by Van Damme's affair with pop star Kylie Minogue, his co-star in the 1994 film Street Fighter. This high-profile indiscretion became tabloid fodder, further complicating Van Damme's already tumultuous personal life and placing additional strain on his marriage to Lapierre. Amidst the turbulence, Van Damme's relationship with Lapierre collapsed, leading him back into the arms of Gladys Portugues, the woman with whom he shared his most enduring bond. Their reunion signaled a new stability in Van Damme's romantic life, a shift from the turbulence that had characterized his previous relationships. This return to Portugues suggested a maturing in Van Damme's approach to love and commitment, perhaps indicating that he had found a kind of peace in returning to a relationship that offered genuine emotional support. Despite challenges, including Portugues' divorce filing in 2015, Van Damme and Portugues demonstrated resilience similar to that of his film protagonists, overcoming obstacles and reconciling once more. Their enduring marriage, which has lasted from 1989 until today, testifies to their commitment and unwavering love for each other. This relationship, with its ups and downs, breakups and reconciliations, stands as perhaps the most authentic love story in Van Damme's life, one characterized not by Hollywood glamour but by real-world perseverance. Meanwhile, the incident involving Jean-Claude Van Damme's son, Nicolas van Varenberg, in September 2017, sent shockwaves through both the Van Damme family and the public, highlighting a dark chapter that unfolded far from the glitz and glamour of Hollywood. The arrest of Van Varenberg in Tempe, Arizona, for allegedly holding his roommate hostage at knife point, marked a stark departure from the controlled violence typically associated with his father's on-screen characters, thrusting the family into an unwelcome spotlight for all the wrong reasons. The chain of events leading to Van Varenberg's arrest began with a seemingly minor incident. An individual was captured on surveillance footage punching an elevator wall in the University House apartment complex, near Arizona State University. What appeared to be a routine disturbance, however, escalated into a harrowing ordeal when law enforcement officers followed the blood trail from the elevator to Van Varenberg's 10th-floor apartment. Upon arriving at the scene, police were confronted with a tense standoff, during which Van Varenberg allegedly held his roommate hostage with a knife for approximately 2 hours. The gravity of the situation underscored the severity of the altercation and raised concerns about Van Varenberg's mental state and propensity for violence. For a family already accustomed to public scrutiny, this incident represented a particularly painful exposure, as it involved not the staged combat of film but a real-life criminal allegation with potentially serious consequences. Following his arrest, Van Varenberg faced a series of legal repercussions, including criminal charges stemming from the standoff. Despite posting a $10,000 bail, he found himself entangled in a legal battle that threatened to tarnish both his reputation and his family's legacy. The media coverage of the incident inevitably drew connections to his famous father, creating an unwelcome parallel between the fictional violence of Van Damme's films and the disturbing real-world allegations against his son. Ultimately, Van Varenberg chose to plead guilty to disorderly conduct, a decision that resulted in an 18-month probation sentence. The resolution of the case offered a form of closure, but the incident served as a poignant reminder of the challenges faced by individuals grappling with personal struggles and the consequences of their actions. For the Van Damme family, it represented a painful chapter that highlighted the often challenging reality of raising children in the shadow of celebrity. Beyond Jean-Claude Van Damme's son, he also had some issues with his own daughter. Bianca Van Damme, daughter of action icon Jean-Claude Van Damme, is a force to be reckoned with, a combination of grace, beauty, and formidable martial arts mastery. Despite her striking appearance, characterized by her model-like brown hair and full lips, Bianca is not just another face in the crowd. Beneath her exterior lies an exceptional martial artist with a passion for breaking stereotypes and empowering others. Bianca's journey into the world of martial arts wasn't something she initially embraced willingly. At the tender age of 7, her bodybuilder mother, recognizing the importance of personal discipline, insisted that Bianca immerse herself in the world of martial arts, a decision met with reluctance by the young girl whose interests leaned toward ballet and speed skating. However, fate had other plans, as an injury directed her path toward the world of combat sports. Despite her initial reluctance, Bianca fully embraced martial arts, recognizing their transformative potential both physically and mentally. Through dedication and perseverance, she honed her skills, eventually becoming a formidable martial artist in her own right. Her commitment to the discipline wasn't merely about following in her father's footsteps but about forging her own identity within a field often dominated by men. Bianca's philosophy on femininity and strength speaks to her multifaceted nature. She embodies the idea that femininity and physical power are not mutually exclusive, advocating for a balance between grace and strength. As she eloquently puts it, "I want to show little girls and little boys that you can be physical and feminine, that you can cross your legs at the dinner table and then kick but in a nice, feminine way." This statement encapsulates her approach to challenging gender norms within the realm of martial arts and beyond. Her talent and dedication to her craft have opened opportunities to work alongside her father, Jean-Claude Van Damme, in the fast-paced world of action cinema. Bianca made her debut alongside her father in The Shepherd, Border Patrol in 2008 and subsequently participated in an impressive array of films, collaborating with her father on a total of 7 projects. Through these experiences, she continued to refine her skills, cementing her status as a rising star in the realm of action cinema while carving out a space distinct from her father's towering legacy. Bianca Van Damme began her career under the family name Van Varenberg, a deliberate choice aimed at forging her own distinct identity separate from the imposing legacy of her famous father, Jean-Claude Van Damme. Despite her lineage, Bianca was determined to make her mark in the entertainment industry on her own terms, unburdened by the weight of her father's illustrious reputation. This decision reflected her desire to be judged on her own merits rather than benefiting from or being overshadowed by her father's name. However, as Bianca's career progressed and her confidence in her abilities grew, she eventually embraced her surname, proudly assuming the Van Damme name. This decision symbolized a coming-of-age moment for Bianca, signifying her acceptance of her heritage and her determination to carve her own path while honoring her father's legacy. The transition from Van Varenberg to Van Damme represented not a capitulation to her father's fame, but an integration of her identity as both his daughter and an independent artist. Although Bianca didn't pursue a professional career in martial arts as her father had before transitioning to acting, she dedicated herself to the craft of combat sports for nearly 2 decades. Her commitment to training shaped her into a formidable martial artist, endowed with the same speed, agility, and skill that characterized her father's iconic fighting style. This dedication showcased her genuine passion for martial arts beyond its usefulness for her acting career. Despite her undeniable talent and skills, Bianca has had to contend with the ever-present shadow of her father's fame, often facing preconceptions and underestimations from others in the industry. Yet, rather than allowing these challenges to discourage her, Bianca has transformed them into a powerful source of motivation, fueling her determination to prove herself on her own merits. The chip on Bianca's shoulder, where everyone underestimates her, serves as a driving force behind her relentless pursuit of success in Hollywood. With each daring stunt and flawless performance, she defies expectations and breaks stereotypes, emerging as a force to be reckoned with in her own right. Her journey represents not just the continuation of a family legacy but the creation of a new one, defined not by her father's achievements but by her own unique combination of strength, grace, and determination in an industry that often reduces women to superficial roles. An incident occurred in Van Damme's life that left him extremely regretful. During an interview on the popular Australian morning show Sunrise, Van Damme's demeanor shifted from enthusiastic promotion to palpable exasperation as he responded to questions he had grown tired of answering over the years. Connecting via video link from Bangkok, Van Damme found himself confronted with the same inquiries that had pursued him throughout his career, particularly regarding his relationship with Kylie Minogue. Despite his efforts to maintain his composure, Van Damme's frustration became evident as he responded, "Yes, I like Kylie, I like everybody." It was clear that he yearned for a more meaningful interaction with his audience, expressing his desire to engage in natural conversation rather than rehashing exhausted topics. As the interview progressed, Van Damme's patience wore thin. Sensing the repetition of familiar questions, he abruptly stated, "Sorry guys, I cannot do this anymore." His voice tinged with irritation, he expressed his discontent with the monotony of questions posed by the press over the past quarter-century. Asserting his desire for a fresh approach to interacting with his audience, he emphasized his age, stating, "I am 55 years old." With a decisive gesture, Van Damme removed his microphone and abruptly terminated the link, leaving the interview in a whirlwind of frustration. As he departed, he unleashed a series of expletives directed at the situation and, by extension, Australia, a visceral outpouring of frustration and accumulated weariness. In 2017, Jean-Claude Van Damme found himself at the center of controversy following his participation in a commercial for the Australian automotive services company Ultratune. While the intention may have been to create a memorable and entertaining advertisement, the execution sparked widespread criticism and debate that overshadowed any positive publicity the campaign might have generated. The advertisement, which aired on television screens across Australia, featured a scenario filled with tension and danger. Two women, dressed in revealing outfits, find themselves stranded with a flat tire in a poorly lit location at night. As they nervously await assistance, a group of armed thugs approaches, instilling fear and apprehension in both the women and the viewer. It appears that a perilous encounter is inevitable, until Jean-Claude Van Damme intervenes to save the day. In a classic action movie twist, Van Damme's appearance signals a change in fortune for the women in distress. Instead of being victims, they find themselves rescued by the legendary Muscles from Brussels himself. However, the commercial's unexpected denouement takes a comedic turn when the potential aggressors express their joy at meeting the famous action star, diffusing the tension with humor. While the advertisement was perhaps intended to be a light-hearted parody of action film clichés, many viewers found its portrayal of gender dynamics and violence troubling. The depiction of two vulnerable women in distress, dependent on a male savior to extricate them from a potentially dangerous situation, struck a discordant note with audiences. Critics argued that the advertisement perpetuated harmful stereotypes and normalized predatory behavior, reinforcing outdated notions of masculinity and female vulnerability. The backlash against the Ultratune commercial was swift and vehement. The Advertising Standards Bureau of Australia, tasked with assessing complaints about advertisements, received an avalanche of feedback condemning the content of the commercial. Viewers expressed concern about the normalization of predatory behavior and the perpetuation of gender stereotypes, arguing that such depictions could have significant implications for how society perceives violence against women. In late 2016, Amazon Prime shook up the entertainment landscape by unveiling its annual pilot program for potential television series, among which was none other than Jean-Claude Van Damme himself. However, what surprised audiences was the genre of the show. It wasn't a high-octane thriller or a martial arts extravaganza. Instead, Van Damme embraced self-deprecation and comedic flair in Jean-Claude Van Johnson. In this bold departure from his usual roles, Van Damme adopted his own celebrity persona, portraying a fictional version of himself, Jean-Claude Van Johnson. The series followed the exploits of a washed-up action star who, in a twist of fate, is revealed to be a secret agent operating under the cover of his Hollywood career. Retired from the spotlight, Van Johnson reinvents himself as a private investigator, using his martial arts skills and Hollywood connections to tackle espionage and intrigue. What set Jean-Claude Van Johnson apart was its irreverent humor and willingness to poke fun at the clichés that defined Van Damme's legendary career. By embracing the absurdity of his own image, Van Damme delivered a self-aware performance that delighted audiences and critics alike. After the pilot episode aired, viewers were invited to vote for their favorite pilot, determining which show would receive a full series order. The response to Jean-Claude Van Johnson was overwhelmingly positive, with viewers embracing the show's unique blend of action, comedy, and meta-humor. Buoyed by this support, Amazon Prime committed to a 6-episode first season of the series. In December 2017, Jean-Claude Van Johnson made its official debut, marking a triumphant foray into television for the iconic action star. With each episode, Van Damme showcased his comedic talents and willingness to subvert audience expectations, infusing new life into his career with a fresh and innovative project. The excitement surrounding Jean-Claude Van Damme's venture into television with Jean-Claude Van Johnson was unfortunately short-lived, as the show met an abrupt end just weeks after its premiere. In a surprising turn of events, Amazon Prime decided to cancel the series, marking a disappointing setback for Van Damme's much-anticipated comeback. This abrupt cancellation added another layer to Van Damme's professional struggles, demonstrating the often fickle nature of the entertainment industry even for established stars attempting to reinvent themselves. Jean-Claude Van Damme's descent into a downward spiral of drug addiction and professional missteps marked a dark chapter in his life and career trajectory. Struggling with his personal demons and addiction, Van Damme found himself trapped in a destructive cycle, fueled by cocaine, which he admitted to consuming at an alarming rate of 10 grams per day. This dependency not only impacted his health but also came with a significant financial cost, amounting to approximately $10,000 per week, an expenditure that would strain even his substantial Hollywood earnings. By the late 1990s, the consequences of Van Damme's drug addiction became increasingly evident. In 1999, he found himself facing a charge of driving under the influence, a stark reminder of the consequences of his destructive habits. Despite attempts at rehabilitation, including a brief stint in rehab that lasted just 7 days, Van Damme struggled to free himself from the grip of addiction. Over the years that followed, he experienced periods of relapse, perpetuating a cycle of self-destructive behavior that threatened to derail both his personal life and professional career. The impact of Van Damme's addiction was keenly felt in his professional life, with his career trajectory taking an abrupt turn. Amidst these personal struggles, Van Damme's filmography during this period was marred by mediocre projects and unremarkable performances that failed to resonate with audiences or critics. Many of his films were released directly to DVD, with little or no theatrical releases, and failed to connect with audiences. Between 1999 and 2008, Van Damme churned out no fewer than 14 films, most of which remained in obscurity, overshadowed by his earlier successes. The quality of his projects varied considerably, with critics and audiences dismissing them as uninspired and derivative, a far cry from the groundbreaking action films that had established him as a household name. Van Damme's once lucrative career appeared to be in freefall, earning him the derisive nickname Jean-Claude Van Desperate, a painful play on his name that underscored the perception of his declining fortunes in Hollywood. Jean-Claude Van Damme's struggle with drug addiction was closely intertwined with his undiagnosed bipolar disorder, a condition that had tormented him for years before he received proper treatment. Individuals with undiagnosed bipolar disorder are particularly vulnerable to substance abuse, as they often seek comfort or self-medicate to cope with the intense mood swings and emotional turmoil characteristic of the disorder. For Van Damme, coping with the debilitating effects of bipolar disorder meant enduring years of inner torment and seeking refuge in destructive habits as a means of temporarily alleviating his psychological pain. Prior to his diagnosis, Van Damme found temporary respite from the chaos of his internal struggles through rigorous physical training. The discipline and structure provided by his training regimen offered a semblance of stability in an otherwise tumultuous emotional landscape, yet it proved insufficient to address the underlying neurochemical imbalances that contributed to his condition. The combination of undiagnosed mental illness and substance abuse created a perfect storm that threatened to consume both his career and personal well-being. Van Damme's journey toward healing was marked by moments of darkness and despair, including periods of suicidal ideation that highlighted the severity of his internal struggles. Yet, through unwavering determination and resilience, he found the strength to confront his inner demons and embark on the path to recovery. Recognizing that true healing required addressing the root causes of his addiction, Van Damme underwent a profound transformation, confronting his insecurities and rebuilding his self-esteem from the ground up. His decision to confront his cocaine addiction head-on, quitting cold turkey, marked a decisive turning point in his healing journey. With newfound clarity and sobriety, Van Damme began rebuilding his life, reconciling with his third wife and adopting a positive approach to managing his bipolar disorder. Through medication, therapy, and lifestyle changes, he developed healthier coping mechanisms, demonstrating that even in the face of seemingly insurmountable challenges, recovery and redemption are possible. The tragedy of Van Damme doesn't end there. In 1997, Frank Dux, the kickboxer whose life inspired Van Damme's breakthrough film, Bloodsport, filed a lawsuit against the action star. Dux claimed that Van Damme had failed to compensate him for his contributions to the screenplay of The Quest, a 1996 film in which Van Damme both starred and directed. Initially seeking $50,000, Dux later escalated his demand to a staggering $1.5 million, transforming what might have been a relatively minor legal dispute into a high-stakes battle with potentially significant financial implications for Van Damme. During the course of the legal proceedings, Dux seized the opportunity to undermine Van Damme's credibility as a fighter. He claimed that in training Van Damme for his role in Bloodsport, the star had demonstrated incompetence in basic martial arts techniques, such as an inability to perform a simple forward roll without injuring himself. Dux went further to question Van Damme's claims regarding a legitimate kickboxing career, asserting that the actor had misrepresented his martial arts achievements to the public. Despite Dux's damning allegations, the lawsuit ultimately failed. In a verdict delivered the following year, a jury exonerated Van Damme from any financial obligation, ruling in favor of the action star. For Dux, this legal defeat mirrored the setback encountered by the iconic fictional boxer Rocky Balboa early in his career, a comparison that underscored Dux's determination to persevere despite obstacles. Although Dux expressed optimism about his intention to appeal, likening his situation to Rocky's redemption arc, it appears that such aspirations never materialized. The legal dispute, much like Rocky's decision to retire and lead a quieter life outside the ring, seems to have reached its conclusion without further action from Dux. The lawsuit represented yet another challenge in Van Damme's tumultuous life, a reminder that even at the height of success, personal and professional conflicts can emerge to test one's resilience and resolve. What do you think about the trials faced by Jean-Claude Van Damme? Leave us your comments in the section below. We hope you found this video helpful. Don't forget to leave a thumbs up, share, and subscribe to the channel if you enjoyed it. Thanks for watching and see you soon for new videos. Goodbye.
Remember to subscribe and activate the notification bell